How the hell is it already April? Make it make sense. What's up guys, it's your girl BooksWithBonnie and I am back with another effing video. Today's video is going to be kind of my first quarter wrap up. Oh my goodness, how is it already April? Where has life gone? I can't think straight. Just saying. For those who wished me happy birthday, I just wanted to say thank you so much for taking the time out. I really appreciate it. And I am very excited for the rest of the year. For those who were asking about my birthday wish list or wish lists around books, you guys are so determined. I was like, I'm not going to share it this year. I'm not going to. And sure enough, all of my friends jumped in my inbox and was like, ma'am, if you do not send that link, we will harass you. So here I go. Down below, you guys can find my book list as well as my birthday wish list. I normally send it to my family because they literally refuse to buy me books. Like, it's so annoying. Like, they refuse to buy me books. They're like, no, we're not buying you books. You got plenty of books. There's no such thing as plenty of books. Anywho, you can find those linked down below. Again, do not feel like you have to buy me something, but if you want, it's down below, and always thank you and I appreciate you. All right, let's jump into this video. So like I said, today's video is going to be all about, you know, the first quarter reads. And according to my handy dandy my book journal, I have read a total of 20 books this quarter, which is nice. I wasn't expecting to do a ton of reading this year after I determined that we will be getting married in May, which is like a month away, y'all. I will be officially married in a month or so. Oh my God. All right, so back to the whole point of this video, and that is going to be my quarter wrap up. What did I read in the last couple of months? I have my book journal here to kind of keep me on track, so I'll be looking down a little bit, but I read a total of 20 books this year so far, and they have been good. I haven't gotten into a reading slump. I was expecting to read less because I totally set all my goals up for the year, but then I totally forgot that I was getting married this year. Like, how does that work? But I've been reading gradually. I haven't gone crazy, and I haven't hit a slump yet. Let's start from the top. The first... Hold on, I'm like turning pages in you guys' ears. I can tell. Okay, so the first book that I read was in January 3rd, and that was Drop Dead Gorgeous by R.L. Stine. Oh my goodness. So this book was what I said was creepy and unusual, but a fun read nonetheless. I was surprised, I was interested and invested in the end of the story. Overall, this story was about Morgan, who ended up being just an overall creep. And the gruesomeness of her was never too much for me. I know I tell you guys all the time, I'm terrified of horror. I can't do gore, but this was done in a way that did not freak me out and disgust me. And I actually really enjoyed it. I ended up giving it, I think, 4 stars. And for those who don't know, I completely just abandoned Goodreads because I was attempting to use Goodreads and Storygraph, and that was too much for me. Like, I felt like I was doing double the work, which technically I was. So I decided that I'm going to move forward with using Storygraph and see if I like it this year. And then if I don't, then I'll go back to Goodreads. But so far, really enjoying the Storygraph. Just saying. The next book that I read was Loser, and this is by Jerry Spinelli. And this was a book that I wanted to read when I was a kid. I remember the cover. The cover that I have is not the same cover that I remember, but the initial cover was a chalkboard with the word loser wrote over it. And it's wrote from a child's perspective. So it's like super cute, super down to earth. It was just the cutest thing. And overall, I gave it 3 stars. The next book that I read is More Than We Can Tell. And that was by Bridget Kimmerer. And I was not expecting this book to be what it was, and it was so, oh my goodness. It was a lot of trigger warning, so I do want to let people know if they decide to read the book to definitely check for that. But oh my God, it was such a well done story. This one included, it talks about certain things like essay. It talks about foster children and the experience of transitioning. It talks about a love story and being careful with the people that you meet online. Wink, wink. Be careful with the people that you meet online. And a whole bunch of other stuff, but I loved it so, so, so much. I actually don't remember what I put as the ranking. I think it's like 4-star though. In my head, I'm thinking it was like 4-star. 4.5. Maybe a little higher. I don't know. Moving on. The next book that I read, and this is for the month of January, was 6 Crimson Cranes. I actually did a buddy read of this with Mary, which shout out to Mary Boo. You know I love you. She actually does the cozy corner kind of videos on her channel. I will link her channel below. Make sure you subscribe. But me and her read it, and this book was so whimsical. It was definitely a lot of like twists and turns. It was so heavy as far as like imagination, fantasy, and then there was a love story in there too, and I was like, oh my god, I can't. So ultimately this was definitely a 4.75 in my radar, so I will recommend it. Book number 5. Book number 5 was the Hawthorne Legacy. Y'all know how I felt about this series, and here's an actual note for you guys. There is another book coming out. What? Mrs. Barnes, when were you going to tell us this? Stop playing with my emotions, okay? I can't deal. This book was fantastic. Absolutely loved it. Love the continued vibes of Knives Out. Love the continuance vibes of Clue. Like, those are the stories that I go to while reading this, and I'm like, huh, love it. It's witty, it's funny, it's intriguing. There's a love story. It's just so good. So good. Bunch of lies, a bunch of like manipulate. Oh, it's so good. If you haven't read it, I strongly, strongly recommend. The 6th book that I read was Daphne and Velma, The Dark Deception. This is definitely a Scooby-Doo twist. So it is actually starring Daphne and Velma and their relationship. Shaggy's like this cool kind of kid at school. Fred's just being Fred as usual. And it's just a really fun way to look at it. And Scooby is not a part of the story, which, to be honest with you guys, I kind of missed, but I get why. It is so good. It talks about family and generational wealth. There's this mystery. There's this theft that happens. It's so freaking good. Loved it. I actually finished this in one night while braiding my hair. So yes, sis, we multitask over here, okay? But ultimately, I ended up giving this a 4.5 stars. When I say I had a really good reading month to start the year, baby had a good reading month. Okay? The next book that I have is also a part of the Hawthorne trilogy, and that is The Final Gambit. I had to finish. I could not keep going on in life not knowing what took place. So they finally kind of wrapped up the story, or the original mystery. Let's say that. We wrapped up the initial mystery. What? And then she came out and said, oh, we're gonna have another book. What? Ma'am, I thought we were done. Why did you do this to me? It's a lot. It's a lot, y'all. It's enough. It's okay. I'm working on it. Next book that we read was One Bad Apple. Oh my God. This book was definitely a mix of emotions for me. I ended up reading it, and initially it was fast-paced. It told you a lot of information early on, and it is a part of a series, which I own a few of the books in the series. Cozy Murder Mystery, fantastic Victorian house on the cover. You mean to tell me you thought I wasn't gonna buy it? Oof. Let's talk about this bad apple. Not right now, this book multiple times, because the beginning of the book was so great. It's about, the first couple of chapters started off with a murder. Like, come on. The main character was moving into a place that her family owned. Her family's not from there, but they've owned that home. So she and her mom decided to fix up the place and sell it. And in the process of being there and fixing up this location, her ex pops up at the door and she's like, why are you here? But he was working on a project in that town. So it's mixed signals, because it's like, we broke up, I lost my job. It's so many downward situations that this was supposed to be that one positive thing. Like, here's something that'll give me hope. And then you open the door and your ex is there. hell. Later to find out that your ex is murdered later that night. What? And no, I'm not spoiling because, baby, that happens in the first couple of chapters. So I was like, okay, let's go. Let's go, let's go. I love this. I love this for you and I love this for me. However, the rest of the story was a bunch of conversations that I could have really done without. So ultimately, I ended up giving this one, I think, a 2.5 or a 3-star because it was just, oh, you can't start like that and then start talking about stuff like, oh, I'm thinking about moving to this town. What's the history on my house? It's like a cozy murder mystery and HGTV decided to have a book. And I was just like, I don't care what color sofa. Did she murder him? Like, that's where I was at. So ultimately I did end it at a 3 points. I mean, a 3 or 2.5, but baby, I was over it. Moving on. Moving into February, right? The month of love. I did a few more reads. So the next book that I read is Thuggalicious. Now, I have said it on my channel before. When I was younger, my mom was a heavy reader. She loved kind of the, I hate using the word urban, but that's what they call the genre, urban fiction. And my mom was always like, honey, I don't think you're old enough to read those kind of books. You may not understand a lot of it. And I read Thuggalicious, and I understand exactly why my mother said, you were not old enough. Baby, I'm in my 30s now. I'm still not old enough. So Thuggalicious is about these 3 kids who were basically taking care of themselves, kind of foster kids. And they basically took to the streets to make an ends meet to survive. It's all about the gutter of survival with this book. And the main character, Thug, is what he's called, which we couldn't do a better name than that. But anyway, he decided to get out of that lifestyle. He was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be a criminal. I have a whole bunch of different talents. I'm going to lean on those talents, right? So he goes to school. He becomes a basketball player. He becomes a rapper. He is like the top 10, like everyone's like, he is going to make it, whether it be music, whether it be school, whether it be the ball, like whatever it is, he can do it. It's literally every stereotype within this book, right, for Black men. So they're like, oh, he can play ball. Oh, he could be a rapper. Like, that's just what it was. And he was definitely focused on just like getting out. But his kryptonite was women. He was a slut. He was a whore. He was a slut. Like, I don't know a nice way to say it. He had so many freaking kids in this book. It just shows like irresponsibility. Like, altogether when it comes to children. He was just sleeping and making out with all kinds of women and just making babies. And unfortunately, he was trying to make ends meet to take care of those kids. And then there was this one woman who he never got a chance to be with. And he loved her. That was the one that he was the most in love with. I don't know how to explain it. But anywho, he decided to be with her in the end. But the hard part about this book is that the relationship he built with his quote unquote brothers, he condoned a lot of BS when it comes to the behavior of his brothers, specifically one who was just terrorizing everyone. He was a killer. He was vicious. He was just disgusting. There's so many effing trigger warnings in this book. I'm letting you know now, if you decide to pick up this book, be prepared to be disgusted, frustrated, angry, emotionally detached, emotionally too attached. It's just a lot. And I personally was not prepared. I'm just going to let y'all know, not prepared. But did I finish this book in 2 days? Absolutely. I absolutely did. So I did finish this book in 2 days, but I don't know what I ranked it. I feel like I gave it 3.5 stars or 4. I'm not sure. I do think that there's something to this type of writing because it's like every, it's for entertainment, right? And when I think about this book, do I think about the movies in the 90s when we're talking about like some of those pinnacle, I'm sorry to say it, urban fiction movies? Like it's spot on to those, right? Am I a type of person who would like or enjoys those kind of books? I don't know. But this was very different from my fave, cozy murder mystery genres. Like, I clenched my pearls reading some of these books. Like, you guys talk about smut in a way of, like, heavy romance. This was like, ain't no love here. Ain't no love here, honey. This is purely an experience for us to experience each other's bodies and move on. And I was just like, this is a lot. It was a lot. But Do I think it was a page turner? Absolutely. Do I think it is people who would actually really enjoy these types of story? Absolutely. And when I think about the time in which it was wrote and the time in which this book was released, it makes a lot of sense. Y'all gonna have me in a whole psychological breakdown of this book, but man, it was something. It was definitely something. So shout out to my moms. Again, I am still reading books off of her book list, like books that she read when I was younger. And some of these books, my heart is like boom, 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 boom. The next book I read is another off my mom's list, and that is The Other Woman. And this is by the late and great JEROME DICKEY. JEROME DICKEY has been writing most of my childhood, right? So of course, all of the aunties, all of the moms read his book. This book was whoa, talk about a ride. We were roller coastering it for most of this damn book. So the premise of the book is basically a woman finds out that her husband is cheating, and he's cheating on her with this woman, and this woman's husband finds out first. So she doesn't find out that her husband is cheating by catching them in the act. She finds out from her husband. Her husband reaches out to her and let her know, like, yo, our partners are cheating on us together. What? It was crazy. Like, how do you respond to that? Like, yo girl cheating on you, my man is cheating on me, and guess what they said? We gonna cheat together. And I was like, wait a minute. When I say this book caught me off guard, I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, wait, hold up. So much more happens in this book, but when I say a page turner, when I say JEROME DICKEY can write his butt off, was not prepared. That ending, not prepared at all. So, of course, what do? We gave it 4.5 stars. When I say I had a great reading month, quarter, whatever you want to call it, I enjoyed it. The next book that we read in February was the Bromance Book Club. I currently have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 of the books in the series. I recently saw the Merry Christmas one, and then I think there's another one that's about to come out. When I say this book made me want to fight a character, live, count your fucking days. I hate you. Overall, the story is about a baseball player, and his relationship is currently failing. He has a stutter, which I find to be super cute. And he is just trying to overcome this, what's the word I'm looking for? This ignorant mindset is what I'll say. He very much found out that his wife has been lying about their intimate time and her experience with their intimate time, and he just cannot fathom continuing their relationship like nothing has happened. To him, it is the ultimate, let's just say, knife in the back. He is heartbroken. He feels like less of a man because she basically didn't tell him that she was not being pleased. Anywho, so his friends, the baseball players, are telling him, like, yo, we are a part of the Bromance Book Club, which we read romance and we implement these steps into our relationships and made our relationship stronger and better. So they're telling him, like, you got to do it now, and we're going to support you on this. When I say bros unite, love it. Love it. I love the guys. The characters are hilarious. But his wife's sister, Liv, she is the most manipulative, asinine person I know. And everyone has that one family member where it's like, you don't belong in this conversation. Why are you talking? Why are you in the room? This is something between me and my partner. Am I triggered by that? A little bit. I want to fight her. I'm just like, Liv, bye. Why are you talking? And the fact that she says things that are way below the belt, in my opinion, nor should you feel comfortable enough to say that to my husband. Like, you're my sister. He's my husband. There's a level of respect, and I'm going to reinforce that. And if we can't, somebody got to leave. It's somebody to go. So, yeah, I don't like her. We're going to move on. But did I love this book? Yes. I gave it 4.25 stars on Storygraph, and it was a whirlwind of opportunities. Next book that we read is The Prada Plan, another book that my mom recommended. Honestly, these are all books from my mom's list, and every single one of them are just like gut punching. Like, it's so raw and gritty, and you don't know what the hell is going on. The product plan is about a girl and her best friend finding each other through foster care, and honestly, SA is happening. There's a lot of that happening in the younger stages of the main character. She grows up and they basically become prostitutes for money, basically. And they start to build a life and they start to get out of that game. And that's when the whole world goes crazy, literally crazy. Like, I'm still trying to process what the hell happened. But it definitely teaches a lot of good life lessons around safety when having intercourse with multiple people. It talks about repercussions. It talks about diseases. It is so much. And I was just kind of like, I respect that. Just because the picture's not pretty doesn't mean you look away. If anything, you should look closer. And I just, I love that about this book. Gave it a 4-point-star read. And yeah, definitely a world win. The next book that I read is Trapunzel. It is the fairy tale trap. I think that was called Fairy Trap series. I don't remember the series, but it's by Tanzania Glover. I bought it last year, read the first 2 books, and then I didn't realize that I didn't finish the 3rd one, so I had to finish the series. This book makes me want to fight as well. What annoys me is that they're kind of the same process, which is, here's all my issues. I don't want to address all my issues, so I project all my issues onto other people until a man comes along and saves the day. And in this situation, the guy was also dealing with his own issues, so he was processing that. Also, it talks a little bit about losing a family member, which was really, I understand the frustration of dealing with something like that. But boy, I have mixed emotions about Tanzania Glover's writing, because it's very adamant about experiences that I may or may not have, but I can definitely relate to them. And I think it triggers me, to be honest. I think I'm triggered by like the behavior of the characters, because it reminds me of people that I want to fight and people that I actually know. So for me, it's like, this is too much. I can't. Like, Tanzania, why are you going here? Because now you want me to call my uncle and cuss him out. Like, it's a lot. I'm just letting you know now. The cultural perspective that is in those books and that series, I was just like, boom, boom, this is a lot. But anywho, I think I gave this one a 3-star rating overall. But yes, it was definitely an interesting read. The next book that I read is Beautiful Creatures. It has been on my shelves since I started this channel 3 years ago. It was one of the very first book sets I received. Did I read the book when I first got it? No, I actually saw the movie when I first got it and was like, oh, then I'll read it. Oh my God. So this was just a lot to do with just like ignorant small town thinking or like-minded thinking. It frustrates me, because just because you're from a small town does not mean that you're an ignorant person or you're not aware of what's happening around you. And that's what I saw a lot in the main character. He was what they call one of us. Because he was born in this town, his family has always lived in this town. It's a bloodline thing, right? But then you have people who are not from there and they come in and people are like, you're not one of us. It's very much dog-eat-dog mentality, and I was just very irritated by that. Also, they kept talking about this freaking war that took place there, which they lost. Like, why would you keep reliving the fact that you lost the war? They were holding on dear and near to something that a lot of people still do today. I'm just gonna, yup. A lot of people do today. But it just makes me think about like slavery and how many people and their families still hold things that are true and dear to their family bloodline when it's freaking wrong. It's absolutely wrong. Owning people and certificates and etc. And it just, it really got me going. And ultimately, I did give this book a 3-star because the love story was great. The magic was great. But that irritated my soul. Irritated my soul. It's like people are willing to ignore the negativity of something in hopes that they can hold on something and have pride in it. Like, it's very much like people whose family used to own slaves. Because it's not acceptable now, you're very hush hush quiet about the fact that your family owns slaves. But you will have these heirlooms and you will have these pictures and you will show your honor for these family members who were frankly disgusting people. Anywho, ultimately, it was definitely a wrap for me. The next book that I read was Crumbs. Oh my goodness, it was my first time reading Crumbs. I'm not gonna go too much into it, but y'all know I loved it. I had a whole book review on this one, so I'm not gonna say much, but man, Diane, you did that, baby. You did that. The next book that I read, and we're starting with our March reads here, is Take a Hint, Dani Brown. I have owned Chloe Brown and the Brown Sister series for a while as well. I read Chloe Brown, liked it. I think I gave it like 3-star. But Dani Brown's story, fire! I was so in love with this. Main character, fire. Dani, fire. Did I love it? Abso-fucking-lutely. It was so good. So good. I'm also afraid to go move on because the first one was like, eh. The second one was like, yes. And I'm afraid that the last one's going to be like, meh, meh. So I don't want to end it. I really don't. But you know how I feel. Dani got a 4 from me. Dani was fire. She was. I'm just letting y'all know. The next book that I read in March was The School of Good and Evil. I watched the Netflix series, or the Netflix version of the first book, and really, really loved it. It was so adorable, and I feel the same way about the book. For those who haven't heard of it, it's basically starring 2 friends from this town, and this town, I think it's like every couple of years there is this kidnapping basically, but they don't call it that, where the kids are taking, and there's only 2, they take the 2 and they basically take them to the school where princesses are involved or where, you know, villains are involved, right? And you have these 2 friends. One is a little unusual. One is a little crazy is what they'll say. And then the other one is what you would consider to be a princess, right? She's beautiful hair. She's kind. She's sweet. She's quirky. But those 2 were taken, but they were taken to the opposite school. So the one who thought she was going to be in princess school ended up as a villain and vice versa. So what they decided was, we're going to attempt to switch schools. And that is where they went wrong, because there is no such thing as an accident here, and there is no such thing as switching schools. So it's so cute. I loved it because it's all magical, but it's also a lot of life lessons in there. Don't judge a book by its cover, honey. You get it? Book by its cover. The next book is The New Girl, and this is by R.L. Stine. I was excited to read this because, yeah, R.L. Stine crazy. He's low-key crazy. I know there's a lot of problematic things that I think about with his writing as far as like fat phobia. It is crazy in some of his books, but I've only read a few. So I'm still learning, right? I'm still learning about his writing. My buddy read this. Jamie reads, shout out to my boo, again, in the description box, y'all can check out her channel. She got me into R.L. Stine and reading his older books, and this one is definitely a doozy as well. I did give this one, I think, 3.5 stars. So, again, we're going to check some things out. The next book that I read in March was The Flame Caster, and it is a series that I wanted to start, and it was amazing. When I say this book was adorable, it was so great. I love the elemental magic in it. You know when you really want someone to just get revenge? Like, that's me. I'm like, get him! Get him, god dang it. So I really love that the villain really got what was coming to him in the end. It was fantastic. But also there's a little cute romance. And you know I love a good romance in the middle of everything going chaotic, you know? So I did go ahead and I gave that one a 4.5. Last but not least, the last book that I read in the month of March is The Luckiest Girl Alive. It is so relatable, it's annoying. The main character is planning a wedding. She is preparing to marry this guy, but she also wants to be a part of this documentary that's being produced about her school in a tragic accident. When I say this has a lot of warnings, again, warning, warning, warning. Please check the content warnings if you are struggling in those areas. I know I tend to do my reviews on Storygraph, and I always try to put the trigger warnings in there just in case Storygraph doesn't. But yes, I did end up giving this book a 3.5 stars, but that was all 20 books that I completed in the month of January, February, and March. Do I have some books that I DNF'd? Yes, I do. So I actually DNF'd The Perfect Girlfriend, and really that girl was crazy. She was just crazy. I decided to pause because what the hell's going on here? This doesn't make any sense. Can someone explain to me what's happening? It was definitely interesting because it was from the stalker, like she was a stalker, stalker's perspective, and she was just crazy. She was doing a bunch of like, ma'am, move on, get you a new man. I don't understand. Like, move on. He don't want you, girl. Like, that's me the entire book. And I was just like zoning out for most of it. So I ended up DNFing that book, and I was just like, no, we're just not going to go there. So I am going to be unhauling that. Also, speaking of unhauling, I will be unhauling some books pretty soon, so that'll be a video coming up really soon. But that's all I have for you guys. Thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment down below. What is your favorite read this quarter, and how many books did you read this quarter? Let's just have some fun. Alrighty guys, it's your girl Books with Bonnie. I am out.